Let the rain fall softly outside your window. Let its rhythm calm your breath, quiet your thoughts. Tonight, we journey back in time, not just centuries, but millennia, to a civilization that helped shape the very fabric of our world. Ancient China was not merely a place on a map. It was a force of creativity, insight, and balance. A land of river valleys and mountain peaks, where emperors ruled from golden thrones and scholars penned verses by candlelight. A place where innovation wasn't loud or boastful, but instead, it flowed like water, quiet, powerful, and enduring. While the rest of the world slumbered in its own ages of uncertainty, China was experimenting with paper, recording the movements of the stars, crafting medicine from herbs, and sipping tea with careful reverence. It was here that printing was born, that the compass first guided travelers, and that silk, so fine it whispered in the wind, was spun into threads that would connect continents. But these were not merely inventions. Each creation was woven with philosophy, tradition, and spiritual meaning. In China, the brush was not just a writing tool, it was a channel between heart and mind. The wall was not just a structure, it was a symbol of protection and unity. The cup of tea was not a drink, it was a ceremony of presence, of being. As we lie back and listen, as the rain sings its lullaby across rooftops and leaves, we will explore these marvels one by one. This is not a history lesson. It is a tapestry of stories, crafted to be gentle, meaningful, and rooted in curiosity. You will not be tested. You will not be rushed. You are simply invited to listen. Perhaps you are here to fall asleep, to learn, or to drift away into wonder. Whatever your reason, know this. The Chinese people did not invent just for survival. They invented for harmony. Harmony with nature. Harmony with community. Harmony with the self. So close your eyes. Breathe deeply. Let go of today. Just for a moment. We begin now in the land of the Yellow River, where ink flows like thought, where dragons fly not in fantasy but in myth, and where the rain still falls, as it always has, softly, eternally. The whisper of a page. How paper changed the world. In the year 105 CE, during the Eastern Han Dynasty, a man named Kai Lun presented something extraordinary to the imperial court. It was light, flexible, and simple, but it would quietly revolutionize how humans would record, share, and preserve knowledge forever. That object was paper. Before paper, writing in China had been inscribed onto cumbersome materials. Bones, bronze, bamboo strips, or silk. Bamboo was heavy and clunky. Silk, though beautiful, was expensive and impractical. The empire needed something better, something more accessible. And so, Kai Lun, a court eunuch and inventor, set to work. His process was elegant in its simplicity. He gathered bark from mulberry trees, mixed it with old rags and fishing nets, and pounded it all into a pulp. This pulp was then spread thinly over a screen, drained of water, and left to dry under the sun. What remained was a smooth, strong sheet, ideal for writing with brush and ink. Though humble in appearance, this invention rippled outward like a stone dropped in still water. First, it transformed record-keeping in China. Then, it enabled the blossoming of literature, calligraphy, education, and bureaucracy. Government documents could now be copied more easily. Philosophical texts could be widely circulated. Poets could write, revise, and share their dreams. Paper, in essence, gave thought a home. Over time, the secrets of papermaking spread along trade routes, traveling westward along the Silk Road. It reached the Islamic world by the 8th century, and from there it eventually reached Europe, where it would help fuel the Renaissance and the scientific revolution. But long before that, in quiet Chinese study halls and temples, paper had already begun its silent magic. There is a kind of poetry in this invention. It began with water and fiber, shaped by hand and sun. It took on the thoughts of emperors and the ink of scholars, and in time, it carried the ideas of millions across languages and lifetimes. Even now, when you hold a page, whether it's a notebook, a scroll, or a book, you are touching a piece of that history. The same humble craft, the same basic process, still lives within each sheet. As the rain falls outside, soft and steady, think of how that sound mirrors the rhythm of early papermakers dipping their screens, lifting them, and watching the water drain away, revealing something light, something lasting, something made for words. The next time you write even a single line, remember, you are continuing a legacy that began nearly 2,000 years ago. A legacy born not in noise or battle, but in the quiet patience of invention. Guided by earth, the invention that pointed the world forward. Long before satellites orbited the skies or sailors studied maps, there was a time when finding one's way relied solely on stars, sun, or instinct. But in ancient China, a quiet discovery would forever shift humanity's relationship with direction. It began not with explorers, but with scholars of earth and energy. Around the 2nd century BCE, Chinese scientists observed that a particular kind of iron ore, lodestone, naturally pointed north when suspended. These early mines, steeped in the philosophy of yin and yang and the elemental balance of nature, saw this not as mere magnetism, but as an echo of the earth's harmony. The concept of qi, the life force that flows through all things, was thought to be gently guiding the stone. Originally, the compass was used for more than navigation. It served in feng shui, the ancient Chinese art of arranging spaces in harmony with the forces of nature. Builders and geomancers would use a spoon-shaped lodestone on a bronze plate, called a south-pointing spoon, to align buildings and tombs with the energies of the world. It was spiritual, mystical, not yet practical for travel. But as Chinese civilization expanded, so too did the need to move, safely and far. By the 11th century CE, Chinese inventors had refined the lodestone into a floating needle on water or a pivoting needle on a dial. With inked cardinal directions and clever craftsmanship, the first true navigational compass was born. It gave travelers the ability to find north even under overcast skies, or in featureless deserts, or in the heart of dense forests. It changed everything. With this tool, Chinese explorers mapped coastlines, merchants navigated rivers and seas, the great fleets of the Song and later Ming dynasties ventured far into the Indian Ocean. The compass gave confidence to curiosity. Eventually, the invention reached the Islamic world and then Europe. There, it would power the great age of exploration, but its roots always pointed back to China. There is something poetic in the nature of the compass. It does not shout or command. It simply aligns itself. No matter where you are on Earth, a compass needle quietly leans toward truth, toward magnetic north. It waits, unwavering, as if to say, "You are here, and here is the way." And so even today, in a world filled with glowing screens and digital maps, many still carry a compass as a tool, as a symbol, as a reminder that even in uncertainty, there can be quiet guidance. Tonight, as the rain taps gently at the window, think of travelers centuries ago, standing at the edge of wild lands or open sea, holding in their hand a tiny sliver of magnetized metal, and in it, finding not just direction, but courage. The power of print. How China gave voice to the masses. Imagine a time when every word, every line of a book had to be written by hand. Pages copied slowly by candlelight, letters traced by weary scholars one by one. Knowledge moved slowly. Ideas were precious, yet fragile. So easy to lose, so hard to share. Then, something changed. In ancient China, a quiet revolution began. Not with steel or fire, but with ink, paper, and wood. It started during the Tang Dynasty, around the 7th century CE. Chinese artisans developed a method called woodblock printing. First, a page of text or image was carefully carved in reverse into a wooden block. Once carved, ink would be brushed across its surface and paper pressed gently on top. The result? A perfect copy, clear and clean. And it could be printed again, and again, and again. No longer did scribes have to copy each book by hand. With one carved block, hundreds of pages could be reproduced, identical, beautiful, and efficient. This technique was used for Buddhist scriptures, Confucian classics, calendars, and even charms. In 868 CE, a Chinese scroll known as the Diamond Sutra was printed, now recognized as the oldest known printed book in the world. But this was just the beginning. By the 11th century, a man named Bi Sheng, working during the Song dynasty, pushed the idea further. Why carve a whole page each time? What if each character, each Chinese symbol, was carved on its own tiny tile? He created movable type, using baked clay pieces that could be rearranged and reused. With this system, printers could compose pages more flexibly and adjust them quickly. Though it would take centuries for movable type to fully replace woodblocks in China, due to the complexity of thousands of Chinese characters, the idea itself was revolutionary. In time, this invention would cross borders, reaching Korea, the Islamic world, and later Europe, where Johannes Gutenberg would reinvent movable type using metal nearly 400 years later. But the seed of the idea? It was planted in China. Printing democratized knowledge. It allowed not only emperors and scholars, but merchants, farmers, and ordinary families to read, learn, and preserve stories. It preserved the teachings of Confucius, the beauty of Tang poetry, the science of medicine and astronomy. It gave memory to a civilization, and it gave momentum to progress. And in all of it, there was care. Calligraphy was not just transferred, but honored. Illustrations were carved with delicacy and life. Each page was not just information, it was a work of art. As the rain falls tonight, think of the quiet hands of those early printers. Steady, practiced, carving backwards so that others might read forward. Think of the first time a child picked up a printed book and saw words that looked just like the teacher's, perfectly shaped, infinitely repeatable. Think of how far the ripple has traveled to the screen you hold now or the book beside your bed. Printing did not begin with machines or presses. It began with wood, ink, and intention. And like so many Chinese inventions, it began with the question, how can we share wisdom, not just once, but for all time? From alchemy to fireworks, the accidental invention that changed the world. In the dark stillness of a Tang Dynasty laboratory, somewhere in 9th century China, alchemists worked by candlelight. Their hands moved with purpose, their minds full of ancient texts and secret formulas. They weren't building weapons or thinking of conquest. Their goal was far more mystical, to create an elixir of immortality. What they found instead was gunpowder. By mixing sulfur, charcoal, and saltpeter, potassium nitrate, these early alchemists stumbled upon a substance that hissed, flared, and exploded when exposed to flame. At first, it frightened them. Flames leapt unexpectedly from their crucibles. Papers caught fire. Small explosions rocked their rooms. But gradually, curiosity overcame fear. They called it Huo Yao, fire medicine. Early uses of this volatile mixture were symbolic, spiritual. It was believed to drive away evil spirits. Festivals and ceremonies began to feature small tubes filled with the powder, which when lit would crackle and burst in the air. Thus, fireworks were born, still one of China's most iconic contributions to celebration and wonder. But the story doesn't end in beauty. Soon, military thinkers took notice. By the 10th century, Chinese inventors had begun weaponizing the substance. They created flaming arrows, fire lances, early gun-like spears, bombs, and rockets. Gunpowder became a core part of Chinese warfare, especially during the Song dynasty, as they battled nomadic invaders and rival states. These early gunpowder weapons were imperfect and dangerous. Fire lances could misfire. Bombs were unpredictable. But the concept was revolutionary. For the first time in human history, chemical energy was used to project force. Walls could be breached. Armor was no longer safety. The battlefield changed forever. Over time, the knowledge of gunpowder spread along the Silk Road, reaching the Islamic world, then Europe. By the 13th century, it had found its way into European hands, where it would be refined into cannons, muskets, and the artillery that would dominate future wars. Yet it all began not in a forge of war, but in the gentle hands of alchemists chasing eternal life. Gunpowder is one of the most paradoxical inventions of Chinese history. It was born of spiritual curiosity. It became an instrument of both celebration and destruction. It brought awe to the skies and fire to the battlefield. Even today, its legacy is all around us. In every firework that sparkles in celebration, in every display that lights up a night sky, we hear the echo of ancient Chinese hands, measuring powders, muttering prayers, and lighting the first experimental flame. As the rain patters softly outside, imagine the flicker of lantern light in those ancient labs, the hiss of the mixture, the wide eyes of discovery, the realization that they had found something that could not be undone, something powerful, something eternal. not as a potion of immortality, but as a force that would shape the future. Sometimes the greatest inventions are the ones we never intended to make. Threads of wonder. How silk wove the world together. There is a sound that silk makes when it moves, like a whisper between leaves, like wind brushing water. It is soft, nearly silent. And yet this whisper once echoed across deserts, mountains, and seas. It helped create one of the greatest trade networks the world has ever known. It started in ancient China, with a secret born of patience and the cocoon of a single worm. Silk. Legend says the story began around 2700 BCE, when Empress Lezu, wife of the Yellow Emperor, was sipping tea beneath a mulberry tree. A cocoon dropped into her cup. Curious, she fished it out, and as she pulled at its threads, they unraveled into a single, long, gleaming filament. She had discovered the raw material of what would become China's most prized and closely guarded treasure. Silkworms were raised with care, fed mulberry leaves, and watched as they spun their delicate cocoons. These cocoons were then soaked in hot water to loosen the fibers, which were carefully unwound, spun, and woven into fabric so smooth and luminous it seemed to glow from within. Only China knew how to make it. For centuries, this knowledge was a state secret, punishable by death if revealed to outsiders. And so silk became more than a fabric. It became a symbol of refinement, status, and mystery. The demand for it was immense. By the Han Dynasty, trade caravans set out from the imperial capital, braving treacherous mountain passes, vast deserts, and foreign lands. These journeys gave rise to the Silk Road, a sprawling web of trade routes that stretched from China to the Mediterranean, connecting civilizations from Rome to Persia, India, and beyond. Silk was the thread that tied them all. But along these routes, merchants carried more than cloth. Ideas traveled too. Buddhism, mathematics, music, medicine, and art flowed in both directions. Dyes, spices, glass, and paper moved across borders. Cities like Chang'an, Samarkand, and Baghdad flourished as hubs of exchange. The Silk Road was not a single path, but a living artery of global connection. Silk itself took on new meanings wherever it went. In Rome, it clothed emperors. In India, it adorned temples. In Arabia, it became part of sacred rituals. And yet, its origins, those careful, quiet hands in Chinese villages, remained at the center. The craftsmanship never waned. Chinese weavers dyed the threads with plant-based colors, embroidered landscapes and dragons, and invented techniques like brocade and damask. Each bolt of silk told a story, not just in texture, but in symbols and artistry. Even today, silk retains its mystique. Despite modern fabrics, few can match its strength and softness. It breathes, it shines, it endures. As you lie back and listen to the rain, picture the journey of one silk thread, from cocoon to loom, from loom to caravan, from caravan to castle, across windswept deserts, bustling markets, and distant lands. It carried with it the touch of its maker, the beauty of its birthplace, and the quiet elegance that only silk can hold. It is easy to overlook something so delicate, but sometimes it is the softest thread that weaves the world together. Healing in harmony. The ancient art of balance and vitality. Close your eyes and imagine a gentle breeze stirring bamboo leaves, the scent of dried herbs wafting from clay jars, and the rhythmic sound of a wooden pestle grinding roots in a mortar. This is not a modern hospital. This is an ancient Chinese apothecary, a sanctuary where healing is not just science, but philosophy, art, and deep intuition. Traditional Chinese medicine, TCM, has been practiced for over 2,000 years, and it is built on one guiding principle: harmony. According to TCM, the body is not just a collection of parts, but a dynamic, flowing system. At its core is qi, pronounced qi, the vital energy that flows through every living being. When qi is strong and balanced, the body thrives. When it becomes blocked or weak, illness takes root. To understand and support this energy, TCM doctors observe the natural world. They look to the changing seasons, the movement of wind and water, the cycles of growth and rest. The human body, they believe, is not separate from nature. It is nature. One of the foundational concepts in TCM is the balance of yin and yang, the complementary forces of dark and light, cold and hot, rest and movement. Health is not the absence of illness, but the presence of balance between these two forces. To restore that balance, traditional healers developed an astonishing array of techniques. Herbal medicine. Using roots, leaves, minerals, and fungi, healers craft formulas tailored to each individual. Ginseng to strengthen, licorice to soothe, chrysanthemum to clear the eyes. Some formulas contain dozens of ingredients, each chosen for its role in the orchestra of healing. Acupuncture. By inserting fine needles into specific points along the body's meridians, paths through which qi flows, acupuncturists seek to unblock energy and restore harmony. The practice is subtle, precise, and deeply relaxing. Moxibustion. Dried mugwort is burned near the skin to warm acupuncture points, stimulate circulation, and promote healing. Tui Na and Qigong. These are physical therapies, including massage and movement, used to invigorate the body, release tension, and strengthen internal energy. Diagnosis through observation. Unlike Western medicine, which often relies on machines, traditional Chinese doctors rely on the pulse, the tongue, the scent, the voice, and the spirit of the patient. A weak pulse may mean qi is low. A pale tongue might suggest blood deficiency. Nothing is dismissed. Everything is connected. What is remarkable about TCM is not just its longevity, but its compassion. It views illness not as an enemy to fight, but as a signal to listen to. It does not divide mind and body. It does not chase perfection. It seeks wholeness. Modern science has begun to validate many aspects of Chinese medicine. Acupuncture is now used worldwide to manage pain and stress. Herbal formulas have inspired new medicines. But beyond science, there is something deeper at play. A respect for the body's wisdom, for slowness, and for the healing power of attention. Tonight, as the rain falls steadily outside, think of an ancient healer by candlelight, feeling a patient's wrist, brewing a pot of herbs, speaking gently of balance and rest. In that moment, medicine is not a transaction, it is care. And in that care, passed down through dynasties, lies a timeless truth, that to heal is not only to fix, but to understand. The dance of ink. How brush and paper became art and soul. In ancient China, writing was never just about words. It was a living, breathing art, a dance between the brush, the ink, the paper, and the spirit of the writer. Calligraphy was more than handwriting. It was a reflection of character, emotion, and harmony with nature. From the earliest dynasties, scholars and poets practiced calligraphy as a form of meditation. Each stroke of the brush was deliberate, flowing, and full of meaning. The thick or thin lines, the pause and release of pressure, the rhythm of the hand, all combined to create symbols that were at once functional and beautiful. Brush painting grew alongside calligraphy, using the same tools and techniques, but capturing landscapes, flowers, birds, and scenes of everyday life. The goal was not to reproduce reality exactly, but to express the essence, the qi, of the subject. A mountain was not just rock and dirt, it was spirit and strength. A plum blossom was not just a flower, it was resilience and hope. The tools themselves were sacred. The brush made from animal hair and bamboo. The ink, traditionally made from soot and glue, ground on a stone. The paper or silk, absorbing and interacting with every stroke. Artists learned to control water and ink density, mastering shading and texture in monochrome. The result was a delicate balance of spontaneity and discipline, where mistakes were not always errors but opportunities for expression. Calligraphy was also deeply connected to philosophy. Confucius praised it as a way to cultivate virtue and discipline. Taoists saw it as a way to flow with nature's rhythms. Zen practitioners embraced its spontaneity as a path to enlightenment. Throughout history, great calligraphers became revered figures, their works treasured as cultural treasures. Their brushstrokes carried emotions that transcended time: anger, peace, joy, sorrow, all recorded without words. Today, calligraphy and brush painting continue to inspire, reminding us that communication can be an act of beauty. They invite us to slow down, to watch carefully, and to find connection in every mark we make. As the rain softly taps your window, imagine the gentle brush sliding over paper, the scent of ink filling the air, the quiet focus of an artist fully present in the moment. In that quiet, you witness a tradition that has whispered across centuries, speaking a language of grace and soul. The art of fire and earth, China's porcelain legacy. In the kiln's glowing heart, where fire meets earth, ancient Chinese artisans crafted something magical: porcelain. It is often called China in the West, a name that reflects the deep connection between this delicate art and its homeland. But porcelain is more than just fine dishes or decorative vases. It is a symbol of refinement, patience, and innovation. The story begins thousands of years ago, when potters in China learned to blend local clays with minerals like kaolin and patunce. This mixture, when fired at extremely high temperatures, created a hard, translucent ceramic that was both beautiful and strong. Unlike ordinary pottery, porcelain gleamed with a smooth, almost glass-like surface and could be shaped into thin, elegant forms. During the Tang Dynasty, porcelain production flourished. But it was the Song and Ming dynasties that perfected the craft, developing famous glazes like celadon, known for its jade-like green, and the iconic blue and white patterns that would later enchant the world. Porcelain was more than art. It was a major driver of trade. These precious wares traveled the Silk Road and beyond, reaching the courts of Europe, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia. Kings and emperors prized Chinese porcelain as luxury items, symbols of power and taste. The process was painstaking. Clay had to be carefully prepared. Designs were painstakingly painted by skilled artists using cobalt or iron oxide pigments before firing. Each piece required multiple firings at precise temperatures to ensure strength and luster. Beyond function and beauty, porcelain carried meaning. Dragons, phoenixes, and lotus flowers decorated plates and vases, not just for decoration, but as symbols of protection, renewal, and purity. Porcelain's influence stretched beyond China's borders. European potters in the 17th and 18th centuries sought to replicate its quality, leading to the development of famous porcelain centers like Meissen in Germany and Sèvres in France. Today, porcelain remains a testament to the harmony of nature and craft. It is fragile yet enduring, simple yet sophisticated. In each piece lies the echo of ancient fires and patient hands, shaped by centuries of tradition. As the rain taps softly tonight, imagine a kiln glowing through the night, artisans watching carefully as earth turns to light, and a fragile cup emerges, ready to hold tea, to tell a story, and to carry a legacy. The stone dragon that guards a nation. Stretching across mountains, deserts, and plains, the Great Wall of China stands as one of the most breathtaking feats of human engineering and determination. It is often called the longest structure ever built, but it is much more than bricks and mortar. It is a symbol of endurance, protection, and the spirit of a people. The story of the Great Wall begins more than 2,000 years ago during the Qin dynasty. Emperor Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor to unite China, sought to protect his empire from invasions by northern nomadic tribes. To do this, he ordered the connection and extension of existing walls, building a massive barrier that would serve as a shield and a statement of power. The wall was not built all at once, but over centuries by successive dynasties, especially the Ming dynasty, when it was reinforced and extended to its most famous form. It is estimated to stretch over 13,000 miles, 21,000 kilometers, winding through some of the most challenging terrains on Earth. Building the wall was a monumental task. Soldiers, peasants, and prisoners labored for years, hauling stones, bricks, and earth over rugged mountains and across vast deserts. The work was grueling and dangerous. Many lives were lost during construction, giving the wall a somber legacy alongside its grandeur. But the wall was not just a physical barrier. It was a complex military defense system, with watchtowers, beacon towers for signaling, barracks, and fortresses. Soldiers could communicate quickly across vast distances using smoke and fire signals, coordinating defense against invaders. The wall also served as a cultural symbol, embodying the unity and resilience of the Chinese people. It was a boundary that separated worlds, but also a bridge that linked diverse communities within the empire. Though it never completely stopped all invasions, the wall was an effective deterrent and played a significant role in shaping Chinese history. Today, it draws millions of visitors worldwide, a testament to human ambition and the deep history of China. As the rain gently falls, imagine the countless hands that built the wall, the quiet watchman standing guard in the cold night, and the endless stretch of stone snaking across the land, silent, enduring, and eternal. The gentle ritual of tea, a taste of harmony and mindfulness. In the quiet moments before dawn, when the world is still wrapped in mist and the first light kisses the hills, there is a tradition that has been unfolding in China for thousands of years. The art of tea. Tea is more than a drink in Chinese culture. It is a ritual, a meditation, and a celebration of nature's simplicity and depth. The story of tea begins long ago in the lush mountains of Yunnan province, where wild tea plants grew freely. According to legend, Emperor Shennong, known as the Divine Farmer, discovered tea's healing properties around 2737 BCE when a few leaves accidentally drifted into his boiling water. The aroma captivated him, and soon tea became cherished for its flavor, fragrance, and medicinal benefits. By the Tang Dynasty, tea had spread across China and blossomed into an art form. It was during this time that Lu Yu, called the Sage of Tea, wrote the Classic of Tea, the first book dedicated entirely to the cultivation, preparation, and appreciation of tea. His work set standards for everything from water quality to brewing techniques. The traditional Chinese tea ceremony, or gongfu cha, is a graceful dance of precision and mindfulness. Every step, warming the pot, rinsing the leaves, pouring the water, is performed with care and respect. The ceremony is not hurried. It invites presence and connection, whether shared with friends or savored alone. Different types of tea, green, black, white, oolong, and pu'er, each have their own stories, flavors, and ideal preparation methods. The leaves unfurl in hot water like a blossoming flower, releasing delicate aromas that awaken the senses. Tea's role extends beyond the cup. It fosters social bonds, inspires poetry, and offers moments of calm amid life's rush. In ancient scholars' gardens, monks' temples, and bustling tea houses, it has been a constant companion to reflection, conversation, and peace. Even today, as you listen to the gentle rain, imagine the steam rising from a freshly poured cup, the warmth in your hands, the soft bitterness on your tongue, the quiet calm settling in your mind. Tea is a gift, one that invites us to slow down, appreciate small moments, and find harmony in everyday life. The path of virtue. How Confucius shaped Chinese thought. More than 2,000 years ago, a man named Confucius walked the lands of ancient China, teaching lessons that would ripple through centuries and shape a civilization's soul. His ideas about ethics, society, and personal conduct became the foundation of Chinese culture, influencing everything from government to family life. Confucius believed that a well-ordered society was built on respect, responsibility, and harmony. He taught that individuals should cultivate ren, benevolence or humaneness, liai no, proper conduct and rituals, and wai mine, righteousness. These virtues were not abstract concepts but practical guides for daily living. At the heart of Confucian thought was the importance of relationships between ruler and subject, parent and child, elder and younger, friend and friend. Each relationship carried duties and respect that, when fulfilled, would create social harmony. Education was also central to Confucius's philosophy. He believed that anyone, regardless of birth, could improve through learning and moral effort. This idea helped establish a meritocratic system in imperial China, where scholars were selected for government service through rigorous examinations based on classical texts. Confucianism emphasized the role of ritual and tradition as ways to cultivate virtue and maintain social order. Simple acts, bowing, speaking politely, honoring ancestors, were expressions of respect that connected individuals to their community and history. Though Confucius lived during a time of political chaos and war, his teachings were hopeful and focused on the potential for moral improvement. He urged people to lead by example, to act with integrity, and to prioritize the common good over personal gain. Over the centuries, Confucianism became more than philosophy. It was the backbone of Chinese education, politics, and family values. Its influence spread throughout East Asia, shaping societies in Korea, Japan, and Vietnam. Even today, Confucian values echo in the emphasis on respect for elders, the importance of education, and the pursuit of harmony. His ideas remind us that ethics are not rules imposed from above, but living practices that nurture trust and compassion. As the rain falls gently outside, imagine Confucius walking through ancient villages, speaking quietly to students beneath a tree. His lessons are not loud or forceful, but steady and enduring, like the rain itself, shaping the earth over time. Reading the heavens, how the Chinese mapped the stars. Long before telescopes and satellites, ancient Chinese astronomers turned their eyes skyward with wonder and purpose. They saw the heavens as a vast, living canvas, full of signs, cycles, and rhythms that mirrored life on Earth. Chinese astronomy dates back thousands of years, with records from the Shang dynasty, around 1600 BCE, describing celestial events like eclipses and comets. Unlike many ancient cultures that saw stars as distant gods or myths alone, the Chinese viewed the sky as a map reflecting earthly order and the emperor's mandate. One of their greatest contributions was the creation of detailed star catalogs. Chinese astronomers divided the sky into constellations called XXEU, or lunar mansions, 28 sections that the moon passed through in its monthly journey. This system helped track time, predict seasons, and plan agricultural cycles. Ancient observatories were built to measure the movements of the sun, moon, planets, and stars with remarkable accuracy. Instruments like the gnomon, a simple sundial, armillary spheres, and water clocks allowed scholars to calculate solstices, equinoxes, and eclipses. These tools required careful craftsmanship and deep understanding. The Chinese also developed the lunisolar calendar, which harmonized the solar year with lunar months, a complex balancing act that guided planting, festivals, and governance. Astronomy was intertwined with politics and religion. Celestial phenomena were often interpreted as signs from heaven, indicating the emperor's virtue or warning of impending change. Officials tasked with observing the sky held an important role, believed to be guardians of cosmic order. Chinese astronomers made early observations of sunspots, supernovas, and comets centuries before European astronomers recorded similar phenomena. Their star maps influenced other cultures across Asia, contributing to the global history of astronomy. Even today, The ancient Chinese view of the cosmos reminds us that humans have always sought to understand their place in the universe, not just through science, but through meaning and connection. As the rain falls softly tonight, picture ancient scholars gazing upward, measuring shadows and charting stars. In their quiet observation lies a timeless quest to find order in the vastness and harmony between earth and sky. Seeds of change. How ancient China transformed farming. In the fertile valleys of the Yellow and Yangtze rivers, Chinese farmers have been cultivating the land for thousands of years. Their innovations in agriculture didn't just feed an empire. They laid the foundation for the growth of civilization itself. From simple beginnings, Chinese agriculture evolved into a sophisticated system marked by ingenuity and harmony with nature. One of the earliest breakthroughs was the development of iron plows. Unlike wooden tools, these were stronger and more durable, allowing farmers to till harder soils more efficiently. This meant fields could be expanded and harvests increased. Irrigation techniques also improved dramatically. Canals, dikes, and water wheels harnessed the flow of rivers, directing water to thirsty crops. Rice paddies, an iconic symbol of Chinese farming, were carefully flooded and drained, a delicate balance that required deep knowledge of water management. Crop rotation and multiple harvests per year maximized yield, supporting growing populations and urban centers. Chinese farmers cultivated a variety of crops, including rice, millet, wheat, barley, and soybeans. Rice, in particular, became a staple in southern China, thanks to its high yield and nutritional value. Innovations went beyond tools and techniques. Agricultural manuals detailed planting methods, pest control, and seasonal timing. The famous agricultural text, Qi Min Yao Shu, written in the 6th century CE, is one of the oldest surviving comprehensive guides, demonstrating the depth of knowledge at the time. Animal husbandry thrived too. Oxen and water buffalo were used for plowing, while silkworm cultivation provided valuable materials. The impact of these innovations was profound. Reliable food supplies allowed cities to flourish. Trade routes carried surplus crops and farming knowledge across Asia. Societies became more stable, and populations grew. Agriculture was not just work. It was a relationship between people, land, and seasons. It was a dance of observation, adaptation, and care. As you listen to the gentle rain tonight, imagine farmers in ancient fields, working at dawn, tending crops, watching the skies, and nurturing the earth. Their efforts, patiently accumulated over centuries, fed millions and helped shape one of history's greatest civilizations. Echoes of a golden legacy. As the rain softly falls outside your window, we come to the end of our journey through the remarkable inventions and timeless culture of ancient China. From the quiet flutter of a silk thread to the blazing power of gunpowder. From the guiding needle of the compass to the flowing strokes of calligraphy, each story carries the spirit of creativity, harmony, and resilience. These inventions were not just practical tools or beautiful art. They were expressions of a worldview that saw balance between nature and humanity, mind and body, tradition and innovation. They remind us that progress can be gentle, thoughtful, and deeply connected to the rhythms of life. Ancient China's contributions have shaped the world in countless ways, weaving through history and culture like a river flowing through time. They invite us to listen, to learn, and to find inspiration in the past. Tonight, as you drift into sleep or reflection, may these stories bring you peace and wonder. May you carry with you the quiet power of discovery, the patience of craft, and the endless curiosity that drives humanity forward. Thank you for joining this journey. May your dreams be filled with the beauty of ancient rivers, starlit skies, and the whisper of silk on the breeze. Good night.